Okay, hello, Elon. So I have something I want to warn you about, and I'm just basing it off your update on what's been going on with your companies, right? And especially this AI portion of it. And you'll see. And I guess let's listen to it first, and then I could tell you the dangers of what's happening because of us. You could almost call it the singularity, where everything's coming to a point to where we're not innovating, right? And I'll show you the dangers of it. But let's listen to your talk on the update on the AI.
I didn't believe me either,
Yeah, okay.
because I've been a skeptic about how far it would go.
Sure.
And your latest releases of software are really incredible. So
Yeah,
I
thank you.
encourage people to try them. As a big question, coming in the next decade, what do you think is going to be the greatest advances in technology that will affect people's lives? What should they be expecting to see here from technology in their lives?
Well, I don't want to blow your minds, but AI is going to be big. I feel confident in that prediction. Well, the funny thing is, if you go back even 5 years ago, certainly 10 years ago, even 15 years ago, I was saying AI is going to be like this massive thing that has deep super intelligence, smarter than the smartest human. People thought I was kidding. There's no way the computer's going to be smarter than a human and be able to do all these complicated things. And now the latest AIs are able to pass complicated tests better than most humans. They can pass the medical test better than 80% of doctors or something. They can diagnose radiography better than most people who've been doing it their whole life. So that's just accelerating, obviously. I think if you haven't seen Jensen's talk, it's excellent. It really shows how much AI is advancing. And it's advancing on the hardware front, on the software front, in terms of data. It's like the new sort of thing is synthetic data, because we've actually run out of all the books, and you literally run out of you take the entire internet and all books ever written, and all interesting videos, and you've now exhausted all of basically the cumulative sum of human knowledge has been exhausted in AI training. That happened basically last year, and so the only
Okay, so this is the problem. Let me get out my blackboard. No, that's not it. Okay, here we go. This is the problem. So what the AI is doing, and it's already happened, right? The AI is the pinnacle of all knowledge being captured and used to make decisions, right? So what's happened is that because the AI is just going and rounding up all the knowledge that is available to us, online, the books, what's on the internet, what's on, it's open source data, and it's gathering all the ideas, concepts, and it's in the AI. So what's going to happen, or what's happening now, is that there's no more innovation, right? Peter Thiel is saying, yeah, in Silicon Valley, there's really no more innovation, right? There's really no groundbreaking steps that are happening, because why? We're using the world's data, right? It's groupthink data because it's already out there, right? We use this the data that's already available in our schools, books, best practices, and it's groupthink because there's nothing new under the sun that we're developing now, because we're just relying on, well, what's the best way to do accounting, right? And it gives us the best accounting data. What's the best way to start a business? The best way to do payroll? Blah blah blah. It's all being sucked in through what we already know, right? And it's groupthink, basically. What's out there is already out there, so we're just bringing it down and putting it in the new products, right? So that's why you see there's no difference between the 2000s to 2010, 2020. Remember back in the 70s, there was a distinct culture in the 70s versus the 80s versus the 90s, right? And we stopped around the 2000s, and I'll show you a clip that we're not innovating anymore because why? We're using the data that's already out there, the best practices that are already out there in the world that are already written down, right? So this AI is going to make it worse because it's just we're going to start to rely on the AI to say, hey, give me a good business plan for this, right? And it'll go back into groupthink, stuff that we've already done before, and it'll pull it out, and consultants and business developers will just put the best practices, and we'll have a cookie cutter of the same shit all the time, right? So let me show you a video that's telling us that.
Bizarre Matrix-style time freeze and see if we can figure out what's actually going on. Is it just a pile of technological and social issues creating this, or is there evidence of other theories? Let's go through all of them. Join me in burnt orange knitted ponchos every day alongside a Partridge Family haircut. I mean, I sure do. The 80s brought us Jane Fonda sportswear, shoulder pads, big hair, punk, too.
They're the same picture.
The Office actually ran from 2005 to 2013, so it should be decades out of date. But teenagers today have a more extreme version of Jim's hair in season 1. They have a fluffy mop or semi-perm of broccoli hair now, or some in Gen Z have a partial comeback of 90s hair. Where did the distinct decade styles go? Fashion seems to be stuck in this limbo land without anything truly new coming onto the scene, and all kinds of duplicates or copies of the past are coming forward. Just think about all these decade styles. They were so distinct. Greasy Elvis and James Dean hair came for men in the 50s, and Marilyn Monroe and Audrey Hepburn styles for women. Think of Happy Days outfits. 60s had hippies and bright colors. 70s got long hair, colorful plaids, patchwork, and polyester. I mean, who wouldn't want to wear avocado, puke green, and burnt orange knitted ponchos every day alongside a Partridge Family haircut? I mean, I sure do. The 80s brought us Jane Fonda sportswear, shoulder pads, big hair, punk, and fluorescent colors. The 90s was baggy, grunge, flannel, casual jeans and t-shirts, miniskirts, hoodies, and khakis with hair and center parts and curtains. That was wild. And that's where we ended the 20th century, right? But this is also where things got strange. The 2000s never really found itself. It was just a mashup of every style from past decades. Both wide and skinny jeans, sportswear, tight clothes, baggy clothes, hair of every length. I mean, just go into the mall today and you won't find one decade's fashion. You'll see them all. And we've been post-1999 for 25 years. But it's not just fashion, of course. That's just the most obvious because we look at people all the time. Have you noticed that Hollywood doesn't seem to be able to produce a unique script anymore? At least not for our movies. All our movies seem to be remakes of the past creative stuff that came out of the last century, and specifically the late 70s through the 80s and 90s. Take a look at this list of remakes I curated from a much larger list on IMDb. Total Recall, RoboCop, Point Break, Footloose, The Karate Kid, War of the Worlds, The Day the Earth Stood Still, Hairspray, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Cinderella, King Kong, Clash of the Titans, Carrie, Planet of the Apes, and I hardly brought up any of the horror movies they've remade. That list is huge. Have people gotten lazy, or could something else be going on? In ancient Greek culture, they talked about muses. It was the muses who imparted to people their inspiration for creativity. All creativity came from them. When people had a creative block, they used to say that they'd lost touch with their muses or that the muses had stopped taking care of them. Muses were held in extremely high esteem. What, did the muses stop taking care of people after 1999? Could we somehow be unable to create original stories anymore? And if so, why? Speaking of movies, I was watching The Matrix recently and something jumped out at me that I hadn't ever thought about before. Why did the AI program controlling The Matrix claim that 1999 was the peak of human civilization?
The Matrix was redesigned to this, the peak of your civilization.
In the movie, 1999 was the point when humans had just enough material benefits to strive for and just enough misery to keep them occupied that they didn't question their reality. Well, when I looked at our own reality, I realized that he was kind of right. Now, no matter what examples we find, people are just going to try to explain this away, but honestly, there's just no fun in that. If we are stuck in this weird time loop, what could have caused it? Let's go into some theories.
Well, I'll tell you what the theory is in relation to what you're talking about with this AI, right? Let me get back on my blackboard. Okay, so this is what the problem is, right? So let's just put 2000, year 2000, was the time that we stopped innovating, right? We just started to become the same. We're in a loop, right? We're no fashion changes. We can't distinguish between 2000 and 2010 or 2020 because nothing has changed because we've stopped innovating. Why? Because we're using what already is out in the world, right? The AI is going to take all the books in the world and everything on the internet, and it'll pass all the tests, right? And it's the same processes, the same systems, because that's what we started doing in 2000. We got clever enough to start benchmarking good practices, and when we had to build a businesses, we'd pick this out, just like when we're building a computer. Well, I'm going to use this spell checker here, and I'll use this way of doing word processing, and on, right? So it's just picking out the same stuff that's in our consciousness right now. Nothing new. It's all groupthink. So what's going to happen when you get this AI? The AI is going to improve it because it's going to, in a sense, wrangle out all the practices in the world, all the things that could make things work, and it'll pick out the best ones for you, right? And it's not necessarily the best ones. It's the same old shit, right? So we're going to still have this society, but maybe quicker and more efficient. But we're still going to have Coke and Pepsi as our drinks. We're still going to have movies that are regurgitating the old hero's journey storyline, right? So that's why movies are boring now, because we've seen them all. Subconsciously, we've seen them all. So that's going to be the problem, Elon, with the way you're going with this AI. Yeah, it's going to be able to data mine the entire, catalog of Western thought. And Western thought only got us to here. And look around us now. Is it utopia? Are we really living the best life that we could possibly can? No, we're not. We're living the same life over and over and over now, right? Since 2000. That's why we can't distinguish between 2000 and 2020. I say, yeah, that's right. There's no distinction between that versus, the 70s and 80s, where we were innovating, meaning that we were going into our hearts and coming up with new ideas that we'd never found. Now we were saturated where we found them all. Well, we haven't found them all, but we're at the point where we're not going into our hearts and innovating anymore. So we're going to get this AI, and once it gets set up, Elon, it's over, because, you're going to build a business. Consultant's going to use the best practices. They're going to go into the AI and they'll ask the AI, build me a business case for this. And it'll be the same thing. And the same thing is killing us, right? The same thing we're not quite there yet. You understand? We're not quite there to utopia, right? We'll never get to, actual utopia, but we've stopped, right? Talked to my friend Peter Thiel, listening to his talks, and he's saying, yeah, we've stopped innovating in Silicon Valley. And his thing was, yeah, because the people are, they're not hungry for it or whatever. It's not that. It's that we're not innovating like we should because we're using, benchmark processes. We're using, we're not looking at a different way to learn. We're looking at a different way to make a computer, right? We're looking at the same process differently, but what we're looking to improve, it's already been done because the AI is going to show us that. You understand? So we're going to be stuck in a loop, with this AI when it gets up and running, and they start to use it because it's easier, right? It's just going to be the same groupthink that we've always been using, right? The same shit that we've been regurgitating to each other because we went to the same schools. We got the same textbooks, right? We know what, engineering never changes, right? And it does, right? It does. And we are going to fail in finding that because the AI is we're going to be reliant on the AI. And then once we get super efficient, we stop thriving and we rely on it 100% or 90%. And there's no going down into our pineal glands, into our hearts to find new and better solutions. That's why you need WhisperX, That's why we need WhisperX. We need WhisperX because it gets people inside their hearts in to problem solve. And when they're going in their hearts to problem solve, they're reaching in through their pineal gland and into organic intelligence and pulling out the truth. And organic intelligence has the best way to do this on Earth. But we're going to stop doing that. Just like these questions you ask on X now, right? Do you think we should put Mark Zuckerberg in jail, right? And yes or no. That's the queries you guys are using. And of course, people are going to say yes, put him in jail because they're not thinking through that question, right? So you're going to get groupthink solutions. So when you're making decisions, you're here on the board, and you're going to say, hey, what did the questionnaire render? Well, they say that we should put Mark Zuckerberg in jail. Well, we'll put him in jail because, this person's, wants to stay in power or whatever. And that's the solutions that we're going to be getting, And that's why nothing changes in our world since the 2000s. And you can see it yourself. There's changes to, the design of a car, but not changes to what transportation should be, right? Or, a different way of doing transportation because we're just group thinking. So that's a major problem, Elon. And I got a bunch more on this thing, but I'm super tired now. I don't know about you, but I have been at 50% for a long time. I'm sick. And, I'd be talking a lot more, but I can't. And I don't know why you guys aren't contacting me, right? And I take that back. You guys are. I'm getting contacted by these psychics that are pretending to be psychics, and they're telling me what's happening, right? And at least I think that's the case. It's amazing, and I love them too. By the way, they're great, and I get mad sometimes because they're telling me to do things that I can't do, right? Like, why don't you go and get in shape while I'm sick, you fuckers? And I have no money to spend on health because everything I got is in XRP, and I have to hit, right? So I don't want to take that money out and spend it on something like my health, but I'm gonna need some help, right? And the amount of shit that I've given you guys, deserves it. And the only reason why I don't think you guys are paying me is because you're waiting for a better time, or you're protecting me, right? Because I can't see you not doing it. I can't see it, you know? So there it is. The robots that you have, you need to get food, shelter, clothing to zero marginal cost, right? People aren't going to need 3 or 4 robots to live in their house to do their, because they won't have anything to do, right? We're going to be jobbed out, and the only thing people are going to be able to do is clean their house, take care of their babies, and do the domestic stuff, because they need to do something, right? So you don't put those robots even near babies, right? You put them in cages and they build homes, they grow food, and they make clothes. All right, man. I'll do another one on a Feel Better.